नहमदुहु व नसल्ली अला रसूलिहिल करीम अम्मा बाद फ़अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम रब्बि इश्रह ली सदरी व यस्सिर ली अमरी वहलुल उक़दतम मिन लिसानी यफ़क़हू क़ौली रब्बि यस्सिर व ला तुअस्सिर व तम्मिम बिल खैर आमीन या रब्बल आलमीन. A quick recap before we move forward. We are working on 4 aspects of an ism, and those 4 aspects, 4 characteristics of an ism are i'rab, jins, adad, and wus'a. We are now quite familiar with the concept of i'rab, and we have worked on it quite a bit. We are going to continue to work on i'rab, and i'rab is going to be with us all the time. Jins we have covered, muzakkar and muannas. We are working on adad, which is wahid, tasniya, and jama. We know how to make tasniya from wahid. We also know how to make jam'a, because jam'a falls into the categories of salim and mukassir. We have learned how to make jam'a salim both in the case of muzakkar as well as in the case of muannas. So jam'a is jam'a muzakkar salim and jam'a muannas salim. And then we have a category of Jama Mukassir. Today the focus of our attention is going to be Jama Mukassir. So what is Jama Mukassir? Let me explain with some examples. A few new words, but don't worry, we are going to continue to repeat these new words. Although we haven't covered fail yet, but we are a little bit familiar with fail when we gave example of Nasara, Hamid helped Zaid, that sentence. So Kasara Yaksuru, and it is Kasrun. Kasrun. Kasara is fail madi, which is past tense. This is fail mudare, which covers both present and future. And this is something which we talked about quite a while ago. It's called masdar. Masdar is basically the action which is contained in a verb. So it's the name of the action of the verb. And in English we translate it in different ways. We call this verbal noun. Sometimes it's called infinite. And gerund, that's another name, the ing form. We are inshallah going to cover this topic of masdar in detail one day. Although these are different translations, but masdar is really masdar, and none of the translations exactly fit in masdar, and basically there is no equivalent word in English which will fit in the definition of masdar, but these are the possible translations. So this is the action which is contained in a verb, so it's a name of the action, and from that we have another word. In this case we will say maksur, maksurun, kasrun and maksurun. This means broken, maksur. This is sometimes loosely translated as broken, but this is not really exactly the meaning. This doesn't have the meaning of broken. Maksurun means broken. And there is a related verb which is called kassara yukassiru, and its masdar is going to be taksir. And its similar noun is going to be mukassaran. This basically means smashed. So maksuran means broken, and there is excessiveness here of the same action of breaking, and we will really translate that as smashed. The Arabic grammar books in English, all of them which I have seen, the authors have used the word broken plural, and not the smashed plural. But I think really this means smashed. For example, if a glass is broken, we will still be able to identify that or recognize that as a glass because there may be a few lines of breakage in it, but it will be kind of intact. But when a glass, the same glass is smashed, it is difficult to recognize that those pieces as glass. So in Jama Mukassar, basically we cannot identify clearly the singular word in that Mukassar word. I'll explain what I mean. There is one word which you're very familiar with, and that's Nabi, Nabiyun. Nabiyun. Nabiyun has two plurals, Salim as well as Mukassar. So Salim will be on the pattern of Nabiyuna. Nabiyuna. And its Mukassar form is Anbiya. So in Nabiyuna, we can recognize the Wahid, which is here, kind of intact. Here, we cannot really identify that Wahid. So this is kind of not exactly broken, it's kind of smashed. But broken plural is the accepted terminology. And we're going to continue to use broken plural. And better still, just call it Jama Mukassar. There's another interesting word, which is Imra'atun. Imra'atun, translated, well, that's the correct translation, woman. So one woman. And its plural is Nisa'un. So totally different, but luckily there are not many words which fall in this category. So we are okay. Most of them are going to fall in this category, Jama Mukassar. But some of those, but most of them will be really Jama Salim, which is much easier to work on. Very early on, I think in lecture 1 or lecture 2, we made use of an English sentence which was Hamid helped Zaid. Hamid helped Zaid. So at that time we said that we can translate this into Arabic in 6 different formats. We're not going to go into those 6 different formats today anyway. Today we are going to just analyze this English sentence, and what we have here is, this is subject, we know that. This is verb, and this is object. Easy, so far, so easy. In Arabic, subject is called fa'il. Fa'ilun. Verb is fail, fa'ilun, and object is called maf'ul. Maf'ulun. Okay. So let me translate that into Arabic. The Arabic translation will be, the fail will come first, so that will be nasara, and then we're going to have file nasara hamidun zaidan. So Hamid helped Zaid. Now what we can do is we can replace Hamid with a word which will represent doer of the action of the verb. Clearly here Hamid, which is subject, is doer of the action of the verb, and Zaid is receiver or recipient of the action of the verb. We can easily replace Hamid with a generic doer of the action of this verb. Hamid is specific here, but we can make it generic, any person who is helping, and there will be a separate word for that in Arabic, kind of generic helper kind of thing. So we can do that, and I will explain to you what I mean by that. For example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write another English sentence here, and that sentence is that Hamid drank water. Again here Hamid is subject, doer of the action of the verb, drank is verb, and water on which the action is taking place is object. So again in Arabic we call this fa'il, fa'ilun. This is fail, and this is maf'ul, maf'ulun. Okay, so now if we replace Hamid with a generic word which means drinker, drinker drank water, for example, drinker as in drinking anything, not drinker alcoholic, but drinker drinking something. Okay, so we can do that in Arabic and perhaps in English as well. And to explain that, we will have to find out the verb in Arabic which means drinking, and that's called shariba. Shariba. This is past tense. We're just going to remain to past tense. So shariba. It will be actually shariba, kind of yashrabu. If we go to the same exercise, yashrabu, and shurbun will be masdar. Some verbs have more than one masdar, and in this case, mashrabun is another masdar. Mashrabun is another masdar. And its maf'ul is going to be mashroob, something which we drink, and we are quite familiar, especially in Urdu, we are quite familiar with mashroob, mashroobun. That will be, we can replace water with mashroob if we have to, but we are just going to replace subject with this generic subject. So generic subject will be on the pattern of this fa'ilun, which will be sharibun. So that will be sharibun. Sharibun. Okay. So we know that we can replace Hamid with Sharib, someone who drinks something, drinker, so to say. So we can say drinker drank water, and in Arabic we will say, I've got space here, Sharaba, Sharibun, water is Ma'un, al-Ma'u. This is not exactly what is in formal Arabic. This will be acceptable, but not really in classical Arabic. But we are kind of here learning and teaching, so we will fully vocalize this. If we recite a Quranic ayah on similar construction, we will say Sharaba, Sharibunil Ma'u. Combine these, but for now we are just going to say Sharibun al Ma'u. So Sharaba, Sharibun, drinker drank, al Ma'a, it should be not Ma'u, al Ma'a, water. So Sharaba, Sharibun al Ma'a, drinker drank water. Drinker drank water, and in Arabic we will say, I've got space here, Sharaba, Sharibun, water is Ma'un, al-Ma'u. This is not exactly what is in formal Arabic. This will be acceptable, but not really in classical Arabic. But we are kind of here learning and teaching, so we will fully vocalize this. If we recite a Quranic ayah on similar construction, we will say Sharaba, Sharibunil Ma'u. Combine these, but for now we are just going to say Sharibun al Ma'u. So Sharaba, Sharibun, drinker drank, al Ma'a, it should be not Ma'u, al Ma'a, water. So Sharaba, Sharibun al Ma'a, drinker drank water. So what is happening here is that this generic file, this generic subject, we have on the same pattern as fa'ilun. So Hamidun has been replaced with Sharibun, which is on the pattern of fa'ilun. Fa'ilun. And there will be many other words which will fall into that category, fa'ilun. For example, we can say from Nasara, we have looked at that verb. So Nasara, help, to help or helping, the action of helping. And from Nasara we can have Nasirun, the one who helps, the one who performed the action of helping, Nasirun. We have another word called Rakibun. Person who rides. Okay, so that is similarly Rakiba, Yarkabu, Rukubun is the masdar, and Rakibun is the one who rides. We have on the same pattern Sahirun, some space here, Sahirun. So Sahirun is again fa'ilun, the person who performs the action of magic, etc. So Sahirun. So it's Sahara, Yasharu, Sihrun, and from that is Sahirun. So we'll have to focus on fa'ilun only. Ignore the other words which I'm saying for now. So Rakibun, Nasirun, Sahirun. Similarly, we have Zalimun, person who commits cruelty, for example. Fajirun, the person who commits sin, sinful person, fajirun. So all these are on the pattern of fa'ilun. Okay. So fa'ilun, we have a pattern which is giving us the name of the action of the verb and generic person who is performing that action of the verb. Okay, so fa'ilun, let's focus on fa'ilun here. Fa'ilun. So fa'ilun, it's the main letters in this are fa, ain, and lam. And alif is kind of extra. I will explain what I mean by that. So these are three letters. So we can say, in other words, that origin of this word fa'ilun is fa, ain, lam. And this is called, in English we call this root of a word, of an ism. So that's root. In Arabic it's called jazr. And in Persian we call it madda, which basically means base. So the base of this word fa'ilun is fa, ain, lam. 99% of words in Arabic have a three-letter combination like this, just like that, which have intrinsic core meaning. For example, let us look at another three-letter combination, which is kaf, ta, ba. Kaf, ta, and ba. So this three-letter combination in isolation has an intrinsic core meaning which will apply to all the words which are formed from this root or base or jazr. Kaf ta ba, when written separately like this, means something to do with writing. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these three letters together. Kaf ta ba, ba. It still means, unless I vocalize it in a certain way, pronounce it in a certain way, or put some vowel signs on it, it still means something to do with writing. But on the other hand, when I vocalize it, ka, ta, ba, I gave a fatha to all these three letters, kataba. Now this means he wrote. This is a verb. I have generated a verb. He wrote. Where has that he come from? Don't worry at this stage. When we started working on verb, we will know where has that he come from here. So kataba is verb which is past sentence, which means he wrote. Similarly, nasara, sahara, etc., etc. Shariba. So this is three-letter root. Now this is purely three letters, and we can add other letters in it. For example, if I add alif after ta, so I'm going to get this word which we're very familiar with, kitabun, which means book. And what is a book? Book is a collection of writings. We can also get from this, we add alif here after kaf, so that will be katibun, which means writer. So writer is something to do with writing. We can have another word from it, making ta double here by giving shadda, katabun, and that will mean author. So katib could be anybody. If I have written a small letter, I'm katib, I'm writer. But if I started writing books and books and books, and then I'm author because I'm writing lots of books or other writings. So we previously looked at a word which was sarraf. Sarraf. From surf, when we talked about surf and nahab. So sarraf basically means money changer, money exchanger. So some person who does this process all the time and excessively. So this is called mubaligha in Arabic, mubaligha. Okay, so that was another word which we made from this kaf, ta, ba. So there are many other words which which we can form from this. These are just a few examples. So basically, I have done all this just to explain you the system which in Arabic exists. This is to learn the concept of the system of roots and patterns in Arabic. Drinker drank water, and in Arabic we will say, I've got space here, sharaba, sharibun, water is ma'un, al-ma'u. This is not exactly what is in formal Arabic. This will be acceptable, but not really in classical Arabic. But we are kind of here learning and teaching, so we will fully vocalize this. If we recite a Quranic ayah on similar construction, we will say sharaba sharibunil ma'u. Combine these, but for now we are just going to say sharibun al ma'u. So sharaba sharibun, drinker drank, al ma'a, it should be not ma'u, al ma'a. Let us go one step further. Let me explain what these terms are then. So what we have done here is that we have there are two terms. One was root and one pattern. So root and pattern. So root is three-letter combination usually in 99% of the cases. And then we have different patterns. So root is jazr or mada or base, and pattern will be translated in Arabic as wazn. Wazn. Wazn basically literally means weight, but here it means the specific pattern or a die in which letters fall into that pattern kind of thing. And its plural is awzanun. And this is Jama Mukassar. Awzanun. So wazn and awzan, so these are two important words as far as the Arabic grammar is concerned. If we move one step further from here, what our scholar has done, just for the sake of learning and teaching, so if we look at that word fa'ilun, so what they have said is that this fa, wrong, fa, ain, and lam. So they say that this is, they have used this as a kind of generic root, generic or model root, just for the purpose of teaching and learning, generic root, to learn the patterns, how the different patterns exist, different awzan. So the terminology which we will be using in the future will be that this is called fa kalima, this is ain kalima, and this is lam kalima. Right, so this kalima terminology here, that doesn't mean the kalima which we initially worked on, which was kalima was ism, fail, and harf. Here it means these individual letters, and this is just a terminology, or we can say first radical, second radical, third radical. And because we are learning Arabic, so we should better stick to this terminology: fa kalima, ain kalima, and lam kalima. So all has accepted this terminology. This is not a dummy root. This is we can use this as a generic root or a model or a standard kind of root, because there are words which are formed from it. So this is not a dummy. And a surah which we all have learned by heart, alam tara kaifa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. So this fa and lam has been used there, so it's not dummy, but it's a kind of generic root which has been used for the purpose of learning and teaching by our scholars. Now, after learning this, that there is a system which exists in Arabic based on roots and patterns, we can look at certain Jama Mukassar patterns or Ozan, and I'm going to write a few words here, and let's see whether that makes sense. So let's write on this side Abwabun, Aklamun, Azkarun, and another one Awladun. Singulars will be Babun, door. Here, Kalamun, we are familiar with that. Zikran, we are familiar with that. And Waladun, Waladun, boy. So these are singular. Now, if we look at these words, these nouns, so we can see that there are some commonalities among them. Here we have Hamza is common here. These are different letters, but what we have common here is Skoon. And then common here is Fatha, and then Alif here, and then Tanween. Now what we do now is that we fit that our generic root in it, which is Fa Ain Lam. Fa Ain Lam, our generic root. So we're going to fill in the blanks with that. So that will be Fa, Ain, and Lam. Fa. So we have generated this pattern which is Af'alun. So all these words, and there are many more in this category, which fall in this, which fit in this pattern Af'alun. So that's one pattern. Let us look at some more words. You can say Jibalun, Ibadun. and we have rijalun and kilabun. Singulars will be jibalun, jabalun, mountain, jabalun. Ibadun, abdun, servant. Rijalun is rajulun, man, a man, rajulun, and kilabun will be kalbun, dog. These are singulars. Now we can generate another pattern from here. So the first we have here is kasira, then we have fataha, then we have alif, and then we have tanween. And fill in the blanks. Fa and ain and lam. So this is fi'alun. So this is the version of fi'alun. And all these words and many others fall in this category of fi'alun, in this pattern of fi'alun. So two versions of Jama Mukassar, one is af'alun, and the other one is fi'alun.
يا حامل القرآن قد خصك الرحمن بالفضل والتيجان.
You can have a look at another one. We have Kotoban, Rusulun, Sohofun, and Jududun. Singular here we know Kitabun, Rasulun, Sahifa, Sahifatun, and Jadidun. So these are plurals. So the pattern will be here we will have Dhamma, Dhamma, and Tanween Dhamma. So Fa Ain Lam, Fa Ain Lam. So we have Fo'ulun, the pattern of Fo'ulun. Fo'ulun. So that's another pattern, and these words and many other similar words will fall into this pattern, and this is another version of Jama Mukassar. Yet another version will be on this pattern, for example, Vora, Ba'u, Uma, Ra'u, Wuzara'u, Wuzara'u, and then we have Khulafa'u, Khulafa'u. Gharibun, Amir, Wazir, and Khalifa. So those are the singulars, and the pattern will be Dhamma, Fatha, Fatha, Alif. This Hamza is common here. So let's fill that in with Fa, Ain, and kind of Lam here, like that. O'Ala'u. Right here, that hasn't come very well. So O'Ala'u. fu'ala. So that's the pattern of fu'ala, waraba'u, umara'u, wazara'u, khulafa'u. So there we have another pattern, another version of Jama Mukassar. Let's do last one. We have here Marada, Mauta, and we have Katla. Katla. So the pattern which we have here is Fatha, Sukoon, and then kind of Alif Maksura and Ya. So that will be Fa, Ain, Lam, like that. Let me write down here properly. Fa'ala, Fa'ala. So that's the pattern. This is plural of Maridan, and this is a kind of Mayyatun or Maytun both, and this is Katilun, Kathala, that's the Katilun is singular. So Katilun is the murdered, Mayyatun, dead, and Maridan, who is unwell. So if we look at these patterns again, so these three, they have got tanween at their end. These are all known. So when we have tanween at the end, we can have three Arabic states of all these, and these will be three states and three forms, three states, two forms, and three states, one form. And if you want a kind of refresher on that, I think it was a lecture 2 where we addressed this. Munsarif, Ghairu Munsarif, and Mabni. So these are 85% of nouns, these are about 13% of nouns, and these are 2% of nouns. These are not exactly Mabni. Over there I gave example of Haza, 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 Allazi, Allazi, Allazi. These are not exactly like those, but they behave like Mabni. Other words will be Musa, Isa, for example. So they kind of fall in that pattern, but they're not exactly Mabni, and we don't have to know that at this stage. That will be actually why they're not Mabni will be kind of, we are doing basic level, and that will be kind of second level. We will address that at that time. For now, an important bit is to know that there are different patterns, and Jama Mukassar, these are patterns of Jama Mukassar, and there are many more. So at this stage, some of us will say, oh, Arabic is really difficult, and so many patterns of Jama Mukassar. But hello, look here. There's so many different patterns and variants of Jama in English. We have fungus, fungi, cactus, cacti, syllabus, syllabi, medium, media, goose, geese, ox, oxen, foot, feet, calf, calves, and so on. So there are so many here as well. And this doesn't bother us because we know the language, you know. Once we go deep into Arabic language as well, these patterns will come to us. We do not have to memorize them. The aim is not to memorize them at all. What one can do is really, when reading Quran, start recognizing these patterns and see which words fits in which one of these patterns, etc., etc. So in this perspective, I have tried to introduce you to this concept of roots and patterns in Arabic. If that hasn't made any sense to you, don't worry. If it has, Brilliant. If it hasn't, don't worry, because we are going to repeat this system of roots and patterns over and over again when we are going to work on verb. So in every teaching and learning program, there is always a period of confusion which is followed by clarity, whether it's medicine, whether it's engineering, whether it's any kind of teaching, other teaching, etc., etc. So it happens. Don't worry if you didn't get it. If you got it, congratulations. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.
يا حامل القرآن قد خصك الرحمن بالفضل والتيجان